Thank you very much, Yaira, and thank you guys for having me. I have been looking forward to this, and so I think I even dreamt about it last night because I really have been looking forward to it. The other thing that I want to say is that I am a teacher, so I'll ask a lot of questions. If you can put your answers in the chat, I'll be happy. Next slide, please. Great. We all know this proverb or have seen this proverb at some point. One other thing that you should know about me is that my PhD is in decolonizing public relations, teaching and practice. And so what I did for my PhD was to examine PR practice or strategic communications practice, but with theories from our continent. And I theorize that proverbs are theories. So you will see a lot of proverbs here because that is my research, and that is the way I think we're able to connect a lot of what we do as Africans. And so, like I said, many of us would have seen this proverb somewhere. Until the lion learns to write, every story will glorify the hunter. And listening to you at the start of this session, I heard a lot of the great things that you guys are doing, some of which is out there, some of which we haven't heard about yet. But until you are able to let that story come out and to let the world know it, everybody will think that when it comes to sustainability, when it comes to climate interventions, etc., it is the West that is doing a lot of the work. That is why I believe in what BISA is doing, and which is why I think that it will be important to understand how to tell your stories. Next slide, please. And so we will have, again, based on my research, a cultural understanding of why storytelling is important and why it is an important strategic tool based on what our forefathers have done over the years. We'll also look at the social impact lens, and then we'll look at advocacy and policy influence, how you can do that, because again, I went in advocacy when I worked with the Ghana Employers Association before transitioning into academia. And then I will give you a practical framework with which you can work. And all of this is important because the story is always the most important thing that you have. You could have the data, you could have a report, you could have your strategy, but all of that travels through a story. And so it's important to learn how to tell those stories. We'll cover, next slide please. So we'll cover the roots of African storytelling. We'll look at social impact narratives. We'll look at how you can make this economically viable as well. Like Gloria was saying, there are women who are helping with what you do, and they get some economic benefits from what happens. So we'll look at that one as well. And the framework that I have developed, the Africa framework for creating impactful narratives. And so before we get on, again, I am a teacher, so I have a lot of questions for you. On the next slide, you are to tell me how you would rate yourself as a storyteller. So if you scan the QR code and you put in the Menti code, the Mentimeter code, you will be able to tell me, and probably at the end, at the very end, I'll show you what Mentimeter says. The level of the storytellers. I have given you options on Mentimeter, so you can check it out. And please let me know if the QR code works, all right?
Okay, I just opened it.
Great, thank you. And I think you have been provided with the link in the chat as well. So in case you are struggling with the QR code, you can use
Can we talk?
No, not yet. Now it's time for the lecture. We'll do the seminar later. All right, so while I wait for you, let's move on to the next slide again, because we do not have a lot of time and I want to be able to cover a lot of things. So one of the things I want you to remember is that for every one of us in the African context, storytelling has been a tradition that we have had for a long time. In fact, I argue that all of the voice technology transitions that we have had. So for a long time, everybody said that text was the most important thing, that we came to photos, and then we went back to voice. And so if you remember correctly, during COVID, Clubhouse, for example, was a huge thing. That is when Twitter Spaces also came about. And all of these have built on, in my opinion, and in the late Ngugi wa Thiong'o also says the same. All of these technological advancements that we have seen when it comes to voice online have built on this African tradition of storytelling. And so we know that every African tradition has a main character for storytelling. In Ghana, as for us, the Akans, for example, we know Kweku Anansi, so Anansi stories. I was speaking to my colleague who is from Botswana, and she was telling me that in Botswana, I think Setswana, it's about the hair. And she said it's called Mutla. I'm not sure I've pronounced it well. Forgive me if I didn't get that pronunciation well. But I also want you to tell me in the chat who the central figure of your storytelling is, wherever you come from. And what we did, or what our forefathers did with storytelling, was to create a system of governance and a moral code. And so every story came with a call to action, sort of, or it said, it gave a lesson which you were supposed to deduce and learn that, oh, you cannot be selfish in the community, you cannot do so and so and so. And it was a tool for preserving collective memory. And so we know about the stories of great and mighty people in our communities. I am an Akan, but I'm a Fanti, so I know about the exploits of a man we call Asebu Amemfi, a very strong giant who could do everything. That is what it does, storytelling does. And it helps with knowledge transfer across generations as well. And it is also a mechanism for justice, for collective action and power. And so every one of our stories has a point, if I should say so, that drives home something. And that is what I hope when you are telling your stories about the incredible things you are doing with zero waste, with sustainability, etc., you will be able to do. Next slide, please. And all of these stories are embedded with proverbs as well. And so there are several proverbs that cross our paths in the storytelling process. And we are able to use it to navigate life, leadership, and change in addition to the story. So if you hear a proverb like, the axe forgets, but the tree remembers, it lets you know that the person who triumphs is remembered. So let's say that in the case of Gloria, I'll probably use you a lot because I like what you are doing, especially because you're working with women in rural areas. These are women who are probably overcoming some difficulties in addition to the poverty and all of the things that are associated with what they are doing. If they are, through those difficult moments, able to help keep the environment clean, then that is a story that needs to be told because they have overcome pain. And we'll look at some of these strategies as well. And there are several proverbs. that talks about exclusion, for example. And so we know the proverb that says, a child that is not embraced by the village will burn it down to feel its warmth. It's about exclusion. And if we do not include the right people in the storytelling, and I think it was Willis also who talked about the voices that need to be heard. All of these people, if their stories are not told, then they will not be an active part of what we want to do, what we want to share about our story. Next slide, please. And I want to say that our grandfathers or our forefathers knew what they were doing. They may not have had the science to explain it like we have now, but when they were telling stories, these are the factors that they knew intuitively. And so there's a Stanford study by Aker that says that stories are 22 times more memorable than facts alone. Our forefathers knew what they were doing. Unfortunately, because they couldn't explain it with facts and figures, they often explained it with the spiritual. So everything had a taboo associated with it, and we thought that, oh, that is paganist, etc. Often it is not. Then we know that 65% of information is retained when stories are told. So it helps you with retention. And we know that a story well told is able to activate over 100 plus areas in the brain. So you are thinking sensory, motor, emotional brain regions all being stimulated simultaneously. Now, what am I saying? All I'm saying is that when you are telling your stories, you will need to understand these things. That stories should not just be about the facts and the figures, but you have to be able to connect the stories to people and to get them to move. Next slide, please. So these are the pillars of effective narratives, and I think about three. So there is often the character. So I talked about, for us Akans, the key figure when it comes to our stories being Kwaku Nancy. So that is the character, and every story needs a character with which the audience can see themselves. So not just a hero, but somebody that is personable, somebody that they can relate with. And that is what social impact storytelling does. So imagine Gloria picking somebody from the community and getting them to tell their stories, the pain they have been through. If that is done very well, there is the likelihood that other women in a similar position will be able to connect to the story and find a way of helping. Then, for every story, often there is a conflict. So it is the gap between where someone is and where they want to get to. So in the case of Botswana, for example, I understand that there are stories about the hare and the tortoise, the hare and the hyena, etc., etc. And often there's a conflict there. So somebody wants something that someone has. And we need to understand that in environmental stories, it thrives on these tensions as well. So there's all of the filth and the pollution that we see around us. The vanishing forests, the rising sea levels, the polluted air, the dying ecosystems. These are the conflicts or the tensions that we're talking about, which we need to highlight. And then there is the change. So we know the character, we know the conflict, what happened, why is Gloria doing what she's doing? And that is where the change or transformation happens. So the most critical moment where change answers, we know all of this. So what? Did somebody grow? Did something shift? Did the community become different? And we'll see one of those stories in a bit. And when you are able to answer this well, this is your impact, this is your story, this is your proof. It is not just a report. We picked 1,000 pieces of plastic from the seashore. And so what? 1,000 pieces of plastic is just the figures. But what does this translate into? Cleaner beaches, people enjoying the beaches better, etc., etc. That is how the story comes together properly. Next slide, please. So if you look at a brand like Apple, for example, a lot of what we have seen is storytelling. If you watch carefully, Apple, yes, is innovative, but it's not as innovative as a lot of brands. But what they have been able to do consistently is tell a story of why they have done what they have done, what they intend to achieve with what they have done. And that is why I think that Steve Jobs is one of the greatest storytellers who has ever lived, based on the story that he told with Apple. And sometimes not all of it is true. That's the caveat. You need to remember that. But he has been able to weave a story about the brand such that anybody who sees the brand, who associates with the brand, thinks that this is the thing for me. And he says that the most powerful person in the world is a storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation. Before the iPhone, there was Nokia, there was BlackBerry, there were so many other things. But with this storytelling, he was able to break through the whole market. Next slide, please. Now, this is how stories or narratives drive change. First, you talk about the story. It has to be true. It has to be specific. It has to have a human feel to it, a human narrative. Then you create the feeling. This is where people connect. So people are empathetic. People get an emotional connection. And based on that, they begin to believe the vision. And they stand with you to fight. So they also get a voice to talk about it. And that is the point where change happens. So whether it is policy changes, behavioral change, system shifts, it is all based on stories and how these stories are told. And that is why I think that social change does not just happen when people are merely informed about issues and things that are happening around them. It happens when people feel something, when people connect with a story. And so for you as social impact storytellers, your job is not to present reports. It is to make the audience feel involved. It is to inspire. It is to equip people to act, because what we are aiming at is behavioral change, getting people to act differently. So and I think I really like what the lady, I have forgotten her name, the one who does work with young people in Nigeria. I think that it is a brilliant initiative, getting children to understand that littering is not good. These are great things that you are doing. You just have to find a way of telling the stories. So let's look at a few case studies. We'll look at 2 case studies, and then we'll look at how you can tell the story as well. So for my Kenyan brothers and sisters, there's the story of Wangari Maathai and the Green Belt and how she involved women to do this. And so the previous slide, please. So there is the character. All of these things, the pillars we have talked about, the character, which is the rural Kenyan women, the conflict, which was deforestation, soil erosion, etc., and the change. They planted trees, and the impact was Professor Maathai getting a Nobel Peace Prize, etc., etc. All right. Then there is the strategic lesson. If we move on to the next slide, please. This is a news article, but I want you to listen to what brought McAfee to do what he has done over the years. Please play the video. Oops. Is it that it doesn't play? All right. Just so that we don't spend too much time on it, I think that when you get the slide to be able to play the video. So if you move on to the next slide, I have explained what is happening there. So McAfee tells the story of how the burning of plastic waste got him to get a health-related issue, asthma. And so he decided that rather than burn this, why not recycle plastic waste? Then there is data that shows also that school children across Ghana are sitting on the floor to study. And so there's that conflict as well. So he said, why not recycle plastics into desks and thereby kill two birds with one stone? And so what he does is he embeds the environmental action with a social story. And when you watch the video, you will see that the president of Ghana has called for policy change based on what McAfee is doing. And so no longer will we have wooden desks, but we'll have recycled plastic desks in school. Next slide, please. I have run out of time. Next slide. So for you, the things that you need to do is to be able to build on all of these things that we have said. And one of the ways that you do that as civil society organizations is to talk about your testimony, talk about the crisis, the vision, the systems, the impact you are making, etc., etc. I want to be able to go into the actual things that you can do. And so if we move on to the next slide, please. Next slide. So there are different types of stories. Please move on to the next slide. That you can tell. The brand origin story, the enemy story, and in your case, the enemy is often pollution that we see. You can talk about stakeholder stories, like Gloria, talk about the women who are involved with the project, what they are doing. You can talk about the community story. You can talk about the future story. Often what we do, and I want to thank Lydia for my next slide because she drew my attention to this. Often when we are telling the stories, we are thinking externally and not internally. So the internal cultural story is also a very important one to tell. And so you can tell stories about your staff, their impact stories, what outstanding things have they done, the narrative, the leadership narratives, what is the leadership vision? Tell those stories as well. The challenge and learning stories. So not all stories are necessarily positive. What challenge the staff have? What have they been able to, how have they been able to overcome the challenge? And then talk about a day in the life stories as well. And the peer recognition stories. What do colleagues say about each other? Do they enjoy working with each other? These are all great stories that you can tell as an organization. Again, so that your storytelling is not monotonous. So often we do not do, next slide please, storytelling audit exercises. And this is one of the things that I want you to do. Much later, you can send me what you have done through Lydia, and hopefully it will get to me. But I want you to do a storytelling audit of sorts. So what stories have you already told? Which stories are most visible? Is it the polished stories of the people, the leaders, and not the stories of the women at the heart of what you do, etc.? What audiences or which audiences are you reaching? And where are the gaps and opportunities that exist for you? And all of that will come based on an understanding of the narrative pillars that we have talked about and who the story should center. Next slide, please. So this is your activity, but because we do not have a lot of time, you will do this activity. I am a proper teacher, and send your responses through Lydia to me, please. So list the stories that your organization currently tells, identify who the stories are about, identify where those stories are shared, assess how effective they have been, and identify the missing voices, the themes, the audiences that you have not highlighted in your storytelling. I think I'll give you a week to do this exercise for me and share your thoughts with me, but it will be very, very important what you come up with. Now, when you have told your story, how do you distribute it? And that Akan proverb says that by coming and going, a bird weaves its nest. Storytelling does not happen at just one point. So there's a creation journey, there's a visibility journey, and then there's impact. Next slide, please. So these are the stages of the storytelling as you will have it. So the creation stage, you have to think about the purpose. Why am I telling this story? What do I want my audiences to know about? So you can talk about staff experiences, the case studies, the community voices, etc. Then the way you package the story is also very important. I need to be able to adapt stories for different audiences and formats. So all your stories will not be the same way. There are those that will have to be video and short form video at that, because now people do not have the time to read. So short form videos, blog posts where you're thinking about your external partners and donors, etc. Presentations, infographics. Then the distribution. Which channel are you taking your story through? Intranet, the website, social media, events, etc. Then there's the visibility aspect of it as well. So who will see the story? And the way you measure this is through reach, impressions, algorithmic amplification, etc. And then there is engagement. Who is interacting with your stories? The comments, the shares, the likes, the discussions, the feedback that you get. And then finally, the most important thing, the impact. So are you able to create change or influence outcomes? Like I've said, once you listen to McAfee's story, you will know that these people have been able to make a difference that has caused policy change, behavioral change, etc., etc. Next slide. Hopefully I'm almost done. Then there is the storytelling calendar, which you have to think about creating as well. This helps you to be more strategic about what you are doing. So every week, you know the different kinds of stories that you are telling. You know the audience that it is going to, and you know the channel that you are sending your story across on. If you do not have this picture, then your storytelling becomes a bit haphazard. So for me, the easiest planning tool that you can use to do this is Microsoft Excel. Just put it in like I have put it in. So week 1 of August, what kind of story are we telling? Is it a human interest story? Is it an evidence story? Is it an impact story? Is it a call to action? What are the key messages that we want to send across? Who are the audiences that we want to reach? And all of this, the audience will help you understand the channel to use. Then there is this framework that I want you to think about when you are telling your stories. And I am calling it, this is the first time I've used it anywhere. So when you use it, please credit me. I am an academic also, so it's important that you credit me for this. And I am calling it the Africa Framework for Strategic Storytelling. And this is what I mean. When you are telling stories, think about how authentic it is. So root it in lived experience of people. Context is very important. Then let it be a felt story, something that people feel something about and want to make a change of. So hits their emotions. Then make it relevant. So connect to the stakeholders' world. The women in rural areas that you are working with, connect with them. What does the story mean for their lives, for their community, for their future? Talk about those things. Then make your storytelling impactful. So show the transformation. We have not just collected 1,000 pieces of plastics from the environment. What was the impact of what we did? And then make your storytelling community-centered. So make it a collective, which is why I really appreciate what you guys said. I think Willis said about whose voices are being heard. So center the whole community, not just a few people, not just the people that are camera ready and all that. And then make it action-oriented. So let there be a call for action. When they hear it, what should they do? How should they feel? What do you want them to become after hearing the story? And then finally, I'll give you another piece of work to do based on the framework. I thought I'd have 2 hours to do this, but because it's 1 hour, I think that I will let Yaira coordinate this maybe at the end of the day when you go into the groups to discuss. Each group will take one of the questions and discuss it based on the framework. I think I will stop here so that if you have any questions or comments, I will take that.
Thank you so much, Doc. Please, can we show Doc some appreciation, some emoji, appreciation emojis. Nice. Thank you so much, Doc, for such an insightful presentation. For me, I believe that at the end of it all, one thing that stands out for me is the power of storytelling. I see how powerful storytelling is, and you even said it with a statement you gave that the most powerful person in the world is a storyteller. So I believe at the end you can also give your LinkedIn and where people can reach out to you on. That would be great, or put in the chat box. But the room is open for questions. I know that we have about 10 minutes for questions. So if we have any questions, let's unmute and speak. So there's a question to Doc from Blackest Community. For organizations led by waste pickers and informal workers, how can we position our lived experiences as strategic assets rather than simply personal testimonies when advocating for policy change? You are muted, Doc.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the question. So when you are telling stories, in the case that you talk about, you are talking about informal waste pickers. Why do they do what they do? You need to be able to create a connecting thread between the personal stories, but how all of that informs the collective story as well. So somebody does it because they do not like to see the environment filthy. Another person does it because of something else. Is there a connective tissue that you can bring it together? And then you put all of these stories together and create the testimonies that are broad. So let's say that you have 50 informal workers or pickers. Why do they do what they do? When those 50 people do what they do, does it leave a cleaner environment? can we translate this somewhere? If we do that, then we can say that I think she's Osas or Osaru something in a case, for example, where she's working with students. If it works in Plateau State, could it work in Jos? Now, once we're able to do those connections, then we can say that this has worked here and has worked there. And so we believe that this should be incorporated into policy when it comes to education. So those are the kinds of ways that you can tell those stories without it just being about the individual storytellers, but putting it together for policy change. I hope I have tried to answer your question.